Welcome, artists, to Monet Cafe Studio and this magical adventure of a painting I'm calling A Snowman's Christmas. I pray this lesson blesses you in learning how to paint magical winter light in soft pastel, but also warms your heart with the beauty and joy of Christmas. Hello, beautiful artists, and welcome into Monet Cafe Studio. Today's lesson is going to be something that's become a bit of a tradition for me. Always around the holidays, I like to paint a snowman. So in this lesson, I'm going to paint a snowman in the most cozy, beautiful scene. And if you're a patron of mine on my Patreon page, you probably already know we have a game challenge that revolves around snowmen. It's called Meet My Snowman, and you're giving your snowmen or women their own personality and descriptions. And also, patrons, you're going to get the full-time content and commentary for this lesson. But not to worry, Monet Cafe YouTube channel, you'll get plenty of content here as well. And if you'd like to become a patron, it's a good time. I have a coupon code. I'll be sharing more about that soon. All right, let's get started with these supplies. The surface I'm using is called Luxe Archival. It's a professional sanded pastel paper. If you're brand new to soft pastels, and you don't know what a sanded surface is, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. Can you hear that? It's a bit sanded, kind of like hardware store sandpaper. But the archival means that it's acid-free, it's really good quality, it's going to last a long time, no discoloring. And this is a great surface because it happens to be water friendly and you can use other mediums on it. I don't believe I'm going to do a water-based underpainting like I often do. I'll probably just blend the first layer. But another thing I love about Luxe Archival, can't really see it here, but it's thicker. It's pretty sturdy, so it doesn't warp a lot if you do add any kind of water-based medium to it. Now, the pastels I'm going to be using is a combination of some blues, purples, greens for some wintry evergreen trees, and a few yellows and pinks. Now, I'm not providing a reference image for this. That's a photo because I kind of made my own with a combination of images. And if you're a patron of mine, I'll give you the actual painting as a reference to paint from. So you'll see it in your version as you're painting, and you'll get a copy of the actual painting. All right, are you guys ready to get started? This painting really got me in the Christmas spirit. I hope it does for you as well. I am starting with a sketch, and I'm using a marker. This is a Tombow grayscale marker. I'm using kind of a middle value. We'll often use a marker versus a pencil or a charcoal pencil for a sketch if I'm doing a wet underpainting. I'm not doing that in this case. I'm going to just blend it with a tool I'll show you in a minute, but I'm using a marker so that you guys can see it. And these markers, by the way, they have two sides to make marks with. One is more of a brush pen and one is more of a fine tip. I'm going to use the fine tip pen, and I'm just going to get in a very basic sketch. Sometimes when I'm doing a landscape painting, I won't even do a sketch. I'll just kind of block in my large shapes. But with something like this, when you've got an element like a snowman or a person, a figure, or an animal, you want to kind of make sure you get some things in the right place before you commit to pastel. And keep in mind that you can tweak these things as you add pastel. You don't want to go willy-nilly sketching wherever. You want to get things basically right, but it's okay. Just have some sketchy marks. Get your elements in the general area. Like this tree, look how crazy and fun this tree is. Often gestural and loose is better. Trust me, when I was first painting, I would have had such a detailed sketch here, and you don't really need that. And that's really all I did for the sketch here. Pretty simple, right? Now, before we go on to adding the pastel, I wanted to go ahead and tell you, if you would like to become a patron, how easy it is. It's only $5 a month, and you become part of a beautiful family. The part I love is the community. I get to see your work, and it's just such a happy place. Now, I do happen to have a coupon code. It is 50% off the first month. If you use this coupon code, it's good until December 22nd. Now, 50% off of $5 is not all that much, but hey, every little bit helps, right? While I've got you here, could I ask you, if you find value to this video, please give it a like, a thumbs up. You can't believe how that helps this video get shared by YouTube. Leave me a comment, and of course, subscribe. And I'd love to hear from you. I'm starting the pastel painting in typical fashion like I often do, which is getting in my darks and just blocking in my values. Now, you can tell this video is pretty substantially sped up. You could still sort of follow it, but I always like to let you know here on YouTube, you can go to the gear icon, whether you're on a phone or a computer, and go to playback speed. And I advise watch the video first and then go back and slow it down, turn it down so you don't hear my voice sounding very strange, and then follow along at a slower speed. It's really awesome. So I'm getting in greens for my dark values of my trees. Then I got in some dark blues for the land, some lighter blues for the mountain, and I put a note in here for my other video. Remember, this stage is all about value. We're not really worried that much about colors. I'm blocking in basic colors, mostly, as you can tell, kind of snow colors. And a snowman is really just 3 circles, and you really paint it very similar to you would a sphere. If you're interested in art, everybody's probably already tried a sphere. So ignore my hands moving all over the place. That was from my full Patreon version. I talked almost the entire video. So now I was giving a little hint. I was going to block in my tree, which is mostly kind of a dark foresty green, but I thought I want to go ahead and get in my areas where I'm going to have my glowing lights. And I'm going to work my green kind of around that. I want my lights to really feel like they're glowing when I'm done. So I didn't want to paint a lot of dark and then try to paint light on top of it. Now, I work very loosely, and some of the green, this is all going to get blended, by the way. You're going to see that very soon. A lot of it's going to get all melded together, which just gives an impressionistic feel. So this is what's called a block-in stage and kind of an underpainting. You notice I am using what's called local color, mostly the colors that are in the scene. If you've followed me for very long, you probably know I often will start my painting with some kind of jazzy, complementary color, but I've had a lot of artists ask if I would just paint right on the surface with local color and without a wet underpainting. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm getting in just some lighter values in the sky, right down behind the mountain and kind of behind the tree, and getting in now an idea for the scarf. I want to keep it just kind of loose and gestural at this point, and things will get tweaked as I move along. So this is a stage where when I was first pastel painting, I would have thought, I don't think this is very good. I don't like this. And I didn't realize that painting in this way is really what's going to give you that foundation that lends your painting towards an impressionistic, painterly feel. If that's what you like, that's probably why you're here on my channel. And you're going to be amazed. I probably lose a lot of followers at this stage, but you're going to be amazed at what this underpainting will do for the final painting. And I often think of my underpainting as kind of a foundation and a roadmap that really just sets things in place. And we often, with our paintings, we want to work big to small, not much detail at the beginning, and we're just getting everything kind of set in place before we start kind of fine-tuning this painting. I have a few little areas that are still rather blank, and I'm just going to scumble in some value, and now it's time to get started with the blending. Now, I'm going to let you hear my actual voice here. This is actually Patreon content, but I thought I'd just go ahead and slow everything down and let you see how I blend this, or at least my instructions at the beginning of it, and then I'll speed it back up again. But I typically just take it. Pipe foam insulation literally insulates your pipes. This was a long cylindrical tube. I just cut a piece off. You can still see the curved part, and you can wash it, dry it, and use it over and over and over again. But often I just wipe it off, you know. And I'm going to start right now with my lighter areas, so I can just work kind of light to dark, not have to clean it off so much. And this is going to make things just feel very impressionistic, moody, snow covered. Now there's a lot of dust here, so I'm going to quit talking. I got a little fan, a HEPA fan, that I'm going to turn on right now to keep the dust level low. Now I'm going to speed things back up again. And often I really like watching the speed version. You can kind of get a better overall feel of how it all comes together. But you might notice I kind of work in sections. And then when my hand kind of disappears, I'm cleaning it off on a paper towel. But what this is going to do is see how it's softening everything? And it's also covering up all of that white or creamy color of the paper showing through. So doing a blended underpainting like this is such a great way to start a pastel painting. You already establish an impressionistic mood.
I have these things called pastel smoothies. I've had them for years, and I often forget to use them. Notice sometimes how I hold my pinky down to stabilize, but these pastel smoothies sometimes can help you blend things in, almost like a paintbrush. I don't even really need to blend this hat that much. Now I'm going to do the scarf. Oh, this one I've broken a little bit. I really want to pull that scarf up where it looks like it's just all cozy around his neck. And I can push color around with these, kind of like under this hat. It needs to be a little more blended. I'm having a hard time getting it to move on certain areas that don't have a lot of color. And don't worry if things look a little chunky at first. We can always embellish. I think I want to make his scarf feel like it's blowing a little bit too. I'll probably add something like that.
And now I'm going to speed up the content for the rest of the painting tutorial from this point forward, except for one other section. Don't go anywhere because, well, don't go anywhere anyway, but I do have some more content that's slowed down a bit. But like I said, you can always slow it down with the playback speed. You're going to notice that I don't immediately go for the golden twinkling lights on the tree. And I'm also adding more darks, a beautiful dark blue down kind of at the center of the tree. I'm adding a combination of some browns and rusty colors because those lights that are glowing, they're going to reflect onto some of these needles on the pine tree. And they need that foundation before I add those brilliant yellows. I just carved in a little bit of negative color into the tree. Again, apologize for my hands moving around. I was talking a lot with my hands while making the Patreon video. So I'm using another little pretty foresty green just to scumble in some of the needles. Notice how loose that tree is staying, and I don't want it to be overly detailed. Now, I made some little zigzaggy marks in the distance to represent those distant trees on the left, and there's another tree I created that's a little further away than the main tree on the right side, and this is all kind of a little dance of trying to give that impression of things feeling far away, and a way to do that is by decreasing the value, making things lighter, making them a little more blurry and not as saturated in color. So here I'm giving a little bit more detail to the hat, and I wanted to make it feel like a toboggan that was woven, and the scarf, I wanted it to really snuggle around his neck, but I had to make sure I got enough darks in these two clothing elements because keep in mind what is going to be the light side of this snowman. It's going to be where those Christmas lights are shining on his face. I'm going to bring a lot of warmth into this very soon. I also wanted to make sure my snowman felt grounded into the ground, and a way to do that really with any element on the ground is to add a shadow, and I knew I needed more shadowy areas behind the spheres because after I blended, everything got very light. Now I'm just using a little Prismacolor New Pastel to get an idea of where I'm going to place my face elements, the eye, the little carrot nose, and the mouth, and it was perfect for getting in his little skinny stick arms. And all of this is kind of preliminary right now, and you'll notice I work the whole painting. I highly recommend that because your painting will feel so much more connected. So you can see my carrot nose, I added a variation of values and colors of orangey and red colors. Now I'm adding this pretty beigey color, or I did, in areas to start bringing some warmth to his face. You're going to see his body kind of warm up up as I add the twinkle and the glow to these lights. And I know that the elements in his hat, on his face, and things that are directly facing the tree are going to get a little bit warmer and brighter and lighter in value. You see it coming to life? That's why I say I really like watching the speed videos myself, playing it back after I've painted it, because you can kind of get the whole concept as an overall view. All right, let's give some color to some of these lights. Now, I got in kind of my browns. You see, I go back and forth between the tree and the hat because I like to echo color. When I have a pastel in my hand and I know I can use it somewhere else, I go ahead and use it. It keeps the painting feeling very connected. All right, here comes the light. I got a light orange, and I'm going to add another lighter yellow. Isn't this beautiful? These lights really look like they're glowing. Now, I have the painting in my studio still on my easel, and I noticed when I was leaving, I turned my lights down, and it was like the lights on the tree really illuminated. It was so cool. I added a little dark element on the lower left just to give some focal point interest. It's a little dark at this point. I do really blend it out, but I felt like it was just all snow on the ground, so I thought I'd add a few other elements for interest. Now, I need to texture up this snow a little bit. After I blended it, it was just all very smooth and flat. So I'm even adding a little feeling of distance way back in the field, carving in some horizontal marks. Now, I add a little purple there. If you followed me long, you know I love purple, but I wasn't feeling it for this painting, so I kind of blended it out. Now we got to add the warmth in the snow. I didn't start immediately with the golden colors, very much like I did with the tree and with the snowman. I got in kind of a neutral warm color first, and again, I'm still working the whole painting, but I gradually want to lighten it up like the lights from that tree are shining down onto the ground. I even add a little of that kind of peachy color, a little bit of the orange. Just think the lights are going to reflect their color down on that snow. But I wanted my scarf, or his scarf, to just feel a little more flowing and have a little bit more tassels at the end. So I made some little gestural marks. I needed a little more darker value just to make it feel very three-dimensional. I had planned that my snowman and my tree would be my main focal elements, but I did want to get some interest into the sky, and I decided to take this neutral color and make it radiate out from behind the tree like clouds. It looks a little funny, like a lot of pastel paintings at first, until you gradually layer and carve in negatively between some of these cloud shapes. And now, as promised, I'm going to slow things up a little bit, and I'm going to show you where I'm finally coming in and adding the eye. This is a Terry Ludwig eggplant color. It looks black, but it's really a dark purple. So I just get my little mark in, and I get a few little marks to represent the little pieces of coal to make his mouth. And positioning is very important with this. You can change a whole expression of a person or an animal or even a snowman if you get an eye shaped wrong. So these are very simple, fortunately. And I used it just still to give a little bit of darker value to really make this snowman the focal point. I add a little bit of a tassel-y feel to the back of the toboggan, and a little bit more texture to the hat. And it really does feel like the warmth of those lights are really glowing on his face now. I forgot to zoom my camera back out while I was working on this sky, but it is closer, and you can see kind of how I'm creating that pink haze, and the sky is really starting to have some interest, and yet it was my goal to not have it overtake the painting. I didn't want any hard, crisp edges. Now, his little skinny stick arms needed a little bit more light value to represent those lights shining on it. I was trying very hard not to get my lines too thick, and I put a little bit of an orange glow just on the tips of his stick fingers to feel like they were toasty warm. So here you can see the sky. See how it's just very impressionistic? I used a lot of very pale values, but often in skies, the values get a little bit darker as you go up to the heavens. Now, here I'm zooming in. You can see he's just all cozy and warm next to this glowing Christmas tree, and he looks all toasty and warm and jolly. Now, I would love for you to leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought about this video. If you learned something new, I love getting your comments about what other types of videos you might like to see. And above all, I pray Christmas blessings on you and blessings over all. This season is about truly the most blessed and beautiful gift of all, the free gift of salvation from our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I pray you remember him this season and you cherish his love. All right, everyone, as always, God bless and happy painting.